Obama is such an elitist, like just prick. He doesn't realize how off-putting this kind of comment is. But I was like,
I love that summary, though. That's so good.
It just is. And so I was jarred by the comment. Then you showed up wearing a flannel shirt. And these two things made me pull this soundbite. And it ties in beautifully to the discussion we're having right now. Listen to him.
Tim is the kind of person who should be in politics. Born in a small town, served his country, taught kids, coached football, took care of his neighbors. He knows who he is, and he knows what's important. You can tell those flannel shirts he wears don't come from some political consultant. They come from his closet, and they have been through some stuff. Been through some stuff.
It's like the inability to wrestle with who Tim Walz is when he's done in policy, one. And number two, like, look at the flannel. I mean, he's middle America, all right. Look at him in his flannel. This says Obama in his $4,000 suit.
It's also silly and superficial. So Obama likes his clothes. Okay. What? You know what I mean? This is a guy who let the biggest city in his state burn, whose wife said she enjoyed it, and she breathed deeply of the burning rubber, kept the windows open to do it. These are sick people. But more than that, like, if that's true, if the Democratic Party is the party of working people, then how come none of the working people are voting for Democrats anymore? You know what I mean? They have to vote for Republicans. And by the way, from my perspective, they shouldn't have to vote for Republican. Republican Party, Mitch McConnell could care less about the opioid crisis, obviously. I don't think the Republicans represent them very well, but the Democrats have such contempt for them, such hatred for them, that rural people have had no choice but to vote Republican. I mean, the Democratic Party has gone out of its way to hurt them, actually, the white working class. That's just a fact. Put them at the bottom rung of medicine distribution during COVID, discriminated against them on the basis of like healthcare because of their skin color and their socioeconomic status. Like, they are truly hated by the Democratic Party. And I don't know Obama well enough to know what he actually thinks of them, but their policies have really hurt these people. And again, I live in an area that was Democrat because there was Mills. And these are not people who wanted to vote Republican. They didn't grow up voting Republican. Their grandparents didn't vote Republican. They're union members. And now they're mostly voting Republican because they have no choice. So like some lecture about Tim Walz's wardrobe that, Obama thinks is very snazzy, it's like so stupid, actually.
Well, maybe he wants them to vote for you, too, because you got the checkered flannel. It looks flannel. I like it's just such an absurdity.
I grew up in La Jolla, California, in an affluent family. I never pretend I'm the voice of the working class. I'm the opposite of I spent my whole life in D.C., living in Northwest D.C. in an expensive house and having, lunch with senators every day. So, I mean, I'm hardly a representative of America's, dying working class at all. I like the people, I like the country, and I'm just trying to be honest about what I see. But the fraudulence there is so transparent. Like, who would fall for that? Actually,
well, they're trying to style him, as I said, into our dad. That was actually, I think, a Politico tweet. You're America's dad. I mean, it's like, no, we're good, and they're calling her Mamala. Our dad and our mama. I'm like, these Democrats, like, really seriously looking for new parent figures in the absence of good ones of their own, I suppose. And I do wonder, like, what's wrong with us? Because most of us don't need new parents and aren't looking to some politician to step into the breach. And now today's line in the wake of the Tim Walz speech is, he is the definition of the non-toxic male. He's the anti-you, Tucker. He's the anti-Trump. He's the anti-JD Vance. He's like the soft man who still coaches football. I'll give you Dana Bash making this point last night on CNN.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin.
What we saw at the Trump convention, which was, as you know, somebody, I forget exactly who said it, testosterone with Kid Rock and the Ultimate Fighting Champion guy.
Yeah, that guy.
And Hulk Hogan.
Dana White. And all.
Remember, Hulk Hogan actually ripped off his shirt, and he had another shirt underneath, which I think is not exactly what the rip off the shirt thing is supposed to be. But in any case, I digress.
What do you make of it?
Well, it's just weird to me as someone who spent almost a decade at CNN that's their A team now. It's like sad, Really? Those Dana Bash is like doing political analysis? It's like, if you live long enough, you see how absurd things really are. As someone who knows Dana Bash. But leaving that aside, I think they're absolutely right. If you want weak men and the angry women around them, like that's the party for you for sure. Men who hate themselves. But I don't think that most people want that, actually. And they've spent 50 years trying to convince us that masculinity is dangerous. And so we live in a world with very little of it. And the society's become much more violent and much more unhappy and much more chaotic, actually. Masculinity, like femininity, is a product of nature. It's a good thing. We should never be against nature, the natural order. And of course, there are horrible men who are violent, and all violence basically comes from men. That's bad. But that doesn't mean masculinity is bad. And if you want to know what happens without it, look around at modern America. It's a miserable country with angry people in it. And if you want more of that, vote for Tim Walz, who I just want to say once again, I'm totally convinced is creepy. I think I'll be vindicated. I hope I'm wrong, but I think he is. But whatever, he's clearly weak. And Doug Emhoff, his daughter, comes out on stage. I'm trying not to be mean, but I look at Doug Emhoff's daughter, miserable, covered in tattoos, and I'm like, anyone who has a child like that should not have political power, because you've messed up enough. Do you know what I mean? I do think that your personal life really matters. If you don't have a spouse who loves and respects you, if you don't have children who love and respect you, I feel sorry for you, but you definitely can't have control over my life, because you have not done a good job.
So he's the one. Yes, there's a million articles calling Tim Walz our new dad and saying he's the kind of guy who would fix your flat tire for you. But Political, the most recent one was about Doug Emhoff. That's who it was. And they called him, the headline was Meet Doug Emhoff, Dad in Chief. This guy who cheated on his first wife by banging the nanny, impregnating her, and there was either an abortion or an abandoned child. And they actually want us to swallow him as our dad. You know what? My dad was a good dad who never cheated on my mom, who never impregnated another person, who never had an abortion with an affair. You go down the line. This is sick. Why are they looking at these men as like their new daddy figures?
Well, because that's the whole program of the party. The party is the most important thing. That's really the story of Kamala Harris. I don't spend a lot of time beating up on Kamala Harris because I don't think she's a significant figure. She just happened to be there. What we've seen over the past 6 weeks is what actually matters in the Democratic Party, which is not individuals, their charisma, their ideas, their program. It's the party itself. The party itself is more important than any single person in the party. The individual doesn't matter. It's the collective. And that collective, in their view, should replace everything else and should be the subject of your first and primary loyalty. In other words, your parents violate COVID law, your brother violates COVID law, you rat them out to the party, to the state, because the party is the most important thing. So of course they think that whoever runs the party should be mom or dad, because the party is more important than the church, than the family, to your friendships, to your work. It's got to be the center of your loyalty. And this is just the totalitarian worldview. It's always been the same. It was the same in the Soviet era. It was the same during the revolutionary era in France and Spain. In every country that's ever had a revolution, whether it's communist or whatever they call it, the names don't mean anything because it's the same idea. It's the party replaces God and family and personal loyalty. And so, yeah, of course, it could be, it doesn't matter who's the head of the party. That person should be dead. And that's why the Democratic Party spends so much time trying to destroy all of their pre-existing loyalties, primarily the family and the church. That's why they've got a vasectomy lab at the DNC, because of course, having kids makes you realize, like, my kids are more important than anything else, obviously.
And women parading and men parading down the street as mifepristone abortion pills, literally in costumes that are the abortion pill. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you really realize it's actually been an amazing and instructive experience to watch this, and just to watch the last couple of years, because they've admitted what's really important. Like, I always thought they were for abortion because, I don't know, they felt sorry for the 14-year-old who got raped, which I do too, of course. So I get that. But it had nothing to do with that. They like abortion for its own sake because it prevents childbirth, because it prevents new life from coming into the world. They're for it on its own terms. It's a positive good to them. Now, you can be as pro-choice as you want and still think that's the most grotesque attitude possible. Like, they're just for human sacrifice. They're for killing for its own sake. They're opposed to children. Like, what's the other explanation?
Honestly, there are some. They're not all that way, but there are some.
No, they're not.
And that's why they run around with, I'm proud of my abortion. I love my abortion. And they're touting the fact that they've killed 25 in utero babies just this week alone. They're proud of it. 25 abortions have taken place outside of the DNC. As they're, talking to us about joy, they're literally killing babies outside and then bragging about it.
So how is that not a religion? I mean, that's a religion. That's not a political movement. Obviously, it's nothing to do with politics, actually. They're worshiping something.
You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even my little Strudwick. Not so little. It's quite a presence, actually. I can't imagine life without them, nor do I want to. They've had a great life and have one now. They're lucky. But some dogs are not so lucky. And that's why I'm so happy to tell you about Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They have rescued thousands of dogs, plus cats and horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter and safety, and most of all, with love. And they have been doing it for more than 45 years now. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Talk to your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need. And check out the estate planning tab on their website if you'd like to learn more. We love our Thunder and our Strudwick, and we would love to find dogs who don't have homes like they do. A loving, caring place to live. Delta Rescue helps the pups and cats and horses who need it most. DeltaRescue.org today if you'd like to help. DeltaRescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.